Spring starts at the Home Depot, and we are bringing the heat to your backyard this season. Fire up the flavor with our wide variety of grills for under $300, like the Next Grill 4-burner gas grill that's perfect for hosting your spring cookout. Then set the scene and turn your outdoor space into the go-to spot with patio sets for every budget. Bring it this season with grills that deliver flavor and patios that set the vibe from the Home Depot. Start your spring with low prices guaranteed at the Home Depot. Exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
This podcast is supported by Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
From LAist and APM, American Public Media, it's This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jenn Nawada. The truth about luxury paint. Before you open your wallet, make sure you know what's inside the can.
Not everything that comes across my lab passes testing. Quite a few fail and have to be reformulated by the manufacturer so that they can try again.
CNN anchor Jake Tapper's job requires him to absorb the chaos of the world. So he bought a remote A-frame cabin to escape the mayhem.
We were looking for a refuge, a place we could go and be outdoors and be away from the troubles of the world.
This Old House's landscape contractor, Jenn Nawada, is here to tell you how to create a truly biodiverse yard, wherever you call home. All of this, plus we're answering your home improvement questions at 877-864-7460. Coming up next. It's This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jenn Nawada. The era of luxury paint is here, but some say you're just paying for marketing, while others swear the higher cost means better quality and durability. So what's the truth? We're separating the hype from the chemistry and taking a closer look to see if the expensive paint is actually worth it. To help us get answers, we're joined by Terrence Mays from Master Painters Institute. He and his team test paints from major brands to see whether they actually deliver. He's here to help us answer one simple question. When it comes to paint, does a higher price mean a better paint? So, Terrence, what is the definition of luxury paint?
To get right to it, we don't have a definition for luxury paint. So luxury has an implication of cost, a sort of value on that end. But everything we do only cares about how the product is put together and how it performs in the scenarios that we use it. Does it resist staining? Does it have a long life cycle on the wall? Does it need to be repainted often? All that kind of stuff. Not on any sort of luxury term, but on the performance aspect of it.
So are there tiers of home paints, good, better, best in your line of work? And what do those look like?
Yes, from how we view it from a performance perspective, we have for latex interior, like the kind of paints we're talking about here, we have 3 tiers. We have a sort of standard level baseline latex interior, a higher tier called high performance, low VOC, and then a highest tier called institutional.
And so what's going on in that standard level?
So standard, that's like, you just got to get something to get the job done. It's maybe, what a general contractor will kind of use to keep costs where people expect it. It's fine. It's going to do all right as long as you treat it well, apply it well. But it's maybe not going to last as long as something higher up. It may, be a little more susceptible to staining, perhaps.
So what moves something then to the middle tier?
As we're going up, we're getting like higher quality ingredients, like the better resins, better pigment processing. We're going to increase that scrubbability for the paint to endure being cleaned over and over without breaking down, without wearing off the walls. And we're also, as we go up, we add a whole nother test called cleansability, which specifically tests the resistance to staining for things like coffee, graphite, things that we would see in the house or the office or wherever.
I've never thought of my paint as being stainable, but you're saying that the structure, the makeup of some of these lower quality paints, they are susceptible to staining.
I'd say every paint in the end is, in some regards, susceptible to staining. It's just going to matter. Higher quality will usually have a higher resistance. Also, as your gloss level goes up, because that's another thing you select at the store, from a low gloss to high gloss. Higher gloss levels tend to have a higher durability and resistance themselves as well. But so you have 2 axes to increase that durability.
Got it. So that was the mid-level. What on earth gets something to the highest level?
So those are the ones that are being specified for use in like schools and hospitals. They have the highest scrubbability requirements, the highest cleansability requirements. You can still find these products, get them and use them yourself if you want to, make use of that high performance. That's certainly possible.
So as that price goes up, it actually is getting you better scrubbability, less stainability, maybe better coverage. You said what? Better resins, better pigments?
Generally, as the price point does go up, you're paying for better raw materials and they're better resins, even better crushing of the pigment so that the color spreads more evenly. You're not going to get as many streaks and issues like that. While the cost increase to performance increase may not be exactly one-to-one, it is still usually there.
When it comes to color, can a brand, let's say, have color exclusivity in any way?
In terms of paints, there is no color exclusivity that I'm aware of. Everyone has their own formulations and small twists to make other colors viable or other colors appear, but I think we'd run out eventually if we were allowed to lock down colors.
Have you ever seen a paint that claimed to be luxury, high quality, high performance that just did not stack up?
Yes. Not everything that comes across my lab passes testing. Quite a few fail and have to go back and be, reformulated by the manufacturer so that they can try again. And some of those have failed those higher test categories. That's an iterative process in the end, like everything really is.
When you're saying that they failed, what is it that doesn't pass the test maybe that sends them back?
So in terms of like the latex paints like we're talking about now, the biggest one that I see failed is that scrubbability. For some reason, the way the paint was formulated, it just doesn't hold up to that test and it'll wear through completely down to the test paper underneath. And that's called a full breakthrough. If that happens at all, it fails. In fact, with the scrubbability, you're only allowed about a 20% visual change in terms of the appearance. We measure that via the gloss level of the paint.
So is there a machine at your facility that has a little sponge on the bottom that is scrubbing how many thousands of times?
There's two of them actually, and you can set them up and they usually kind of like, they set up a nice little syncopation with each other. It's a nice little background noise. You got a little drum circle in the background there. But yeah, they just go back and forth thousands of cycles, switch it out, put the next product on and just go.
Is there anything else you can do to make sure you get the best performance out of your paint?
So a couple things. First, from my own experience, don't have small children because they're going to do their best.
Yes, they're going to test it.
But gloss level does have an impact. Higher glosses, higher resin, you're getting more of that. It's not just a shininess; it's a protective sheen on it almost. You can think of it in that manner, which you may not want on your walls because it's going to make the area weirdly reflective. But in an area where, you need that extra durability, maybe a kitchen area, something like that that's going to be exposed to higher humidities, probably a solid choice. Of course, that doesn't mean, don't make sure you get your proper undercoat for that's water resistant and all that. But the stuff that goes on top still matters as well.
Well, this is fantastic information, and we thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course.
That was Terrence Mays from the Master Painters Institute. If you're looking for paint, visit their website's decision tree to find the perfect kind for your project at mpi.net. Right now, we're answering your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, I'm Megan Flitter. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Hi, Megan. What's your question today?
I just moved into a 1950s fourplex multifamily house, and we have those really old plaster walls, and I think they're rock glass. I think it's how you pronounce that. And I am looking on how the best way I can hang up photos or curtain rods, and especially in a renter-friendly way.
Absolutely. We've got Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, here on the line to help us out.
Hey, Megan.
Hi, how are you doing?
This is a question I think I can easily answer. So,
Sledgehammer.
Yeah. Who cares? You're the tenant. Just put holes in the wall and say, it was like that when I got here.
Yep.
So I think the first thing to clarify is sort of what a plaster wall is. You use the term rock lap, which was sort of the bridge between modern day drywall, which is a 4x8 sheet typically, and original plaster, which was strips of wood with plaster over it. Rock lath was sort of this board that they would put up first and had little holes in it, and then they would put the plaster over it, and it skipped that lath step, adding all those bits of wood. But either way, what you're dealing with is sort of this really hard surface that you can't just bang a nail into. And in general, tiny holes when you're a tenant are easier to repair than the damage that like an adhesive wall hanger can create, sort of delaminating paint and creating a more obvious thing for at least hanging pictures and artwork. I would get yourself a masonry bit. So not a wood drilling bit, but a masonry bit that's meant for going through really hard surfaces, and put a little vacuum under it when you're drilling, if you have one, so that that dust from the drill bit goes in there. And then you're going to want to drill at a downward angle so that if you put a nail into it, it's sort of pointing up and you could hook a string or a hook over it. And that's pretty much it. You're just using the drill to create a tiny pilot hole, and then you're sliding the nail into that pilot hole. And then you'll just be able to peel that out, fill the hole with a little bit of plaster, and you're off to the races.
God, I was going to say anti-adhesive advice as well, and I thought I was going to be odd man out. You too? Have you ever ripped one of those off the wall and it takes like a whole patch of your drywall or a whole patch of the paint off?
I did that in my pantry recently, and it was like I put this thing up in the wrong spot, and I created like a 10-inch by 10-inch damaged area.
It's terrible. You can't patch it. You got to actually put joint compound on and smooth it back out. It's a whole mess.
It's a whole thing.
It's way worse than one tiny little hole that you can patch easily.
What do you think, Jen? What do you do for window treatments?
I think in the case of a landlord especially, there is, like if you were to reach out to your landlord, there is quite a few people who are okay with window treatments, because most people, when they move in or move out, leave those behind, at least the rod. And so you can always reach out to your landlord and ask, if I put in a curtain rod so that I can hang window treatments and I leave it behind when I leave, so you're going to lose the $20 you spent on it, is it okay if I put real holes in the wall so that it's secure? But they do make adhesive options as well. You just have to be really careful when you take them back off. You know, maybe you pick up a little stud finder at the home center and you go a little farther outside the window so that you can get into something a little more structural instead of going so close to the window where you're running into the metal or something else.
Gotcha.
I'm coming around to the cafe curtain. You know?
No.
Yes. So we have them in our dining room and our kitchen. And you know what I'm talking about, Megan? A cafe curtain?
No, she's not 60. She doesn't know.
Are you talking about halfway up? You put the rod halfway up so it just covers the bottom half.
100%. And then, so we have them in our kitchen. You know, you may be like talking about bedrooms and want more privacy or blackout. This isn't going to help you with that. But if you're looking for sort of half window privacy, you put a tension rod in there, no drilling at all. And we actually got vintage bed sheets off of eBay and had them sewn into cafe curtains, so they look super old and vintage. And hey,
oh, very nice.
Looks pretty appropriate for this old building.
I gotta see a picture of this. I can't get on board until I have a visual.
Funny enough, some folks like to refer to my partner and I as the youngest 70-year-old couple you ever met. So our
we
home
nailed it. Cafe
curtains. Like your grandmother's house.
Problem solved.
Done, Megan. Cafe curtain for the win. Tension rod. You're done.
Oh, I love it. Megan, we wish you luck with it.
All right. I appreciate you both. Thank you so much.
Take care. Don't throw a hip out. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Coming up, we answer more of your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. It's This Old House Radio Hour. Today's episode is supported by fast-growing trees. Spring is here, and it's the best time to get your yard ready with fast-growing trees. Every plant is grown with expert care, receiving the right water, nutrients, and sunlight it needs before it reaches your home. so it can thrive in your yard. Plus, their Alive and Thrive guarantee means your plants arrive healthy and ready to grow, no green thumb required. You even get ongoing support from plant experts 7 days a week to ensure you can grow with confidence. Right now, stock up for spring with the plants and trees you need. Select varieties are up to half off. And listeners to our show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code THISOLDHOUSE at checkout. That's an additional 20% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code THISOLDHOUSE. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code THISOLDHOUSE. Now is the perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Use This Old House to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jenn Nawada. Right now, we're tackling your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Or you can leave us a voicemail anytime. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, this is Carmen Heath from Pasadena, California.
Hi, Carmen. Thanks for calling.
I'm excited to talk to you. I'm hoping you can fix my house.
And what's your question today?
So I have a 1909 mostly Craftsman house. It has a river rock foundation. And as I walk through the main floor, in the middle of the pocket doors between the living room and the dining room is a definite high point in the wood floor. Mm-hmm. And it's bent. And sometimes the old wood floor maybe is more likely to splinter there because of the bend. And so I think the periphery of the house has settled, and the 4x6 timbers that are supported in the basement by a concrete floor have stayed the same.
Interesting. Well, we've got This Old House general contractor Zach Detmore and Mason Mark McCullough both on the line to help sort of navigate this situation.
Okay.
Awesome.
Let's do this.
Navigate away.
The first thing that comes to mind for me, well, next question. You described a pocket door, so I'm guessing this is an opening that's between 4 and 8 feet. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
What I'm imagining is this is roughly out in the middle of the floor plan, kind of over that beam that you're speaking about in the basement, or that girder.
Correct. Yeah, there are 8 of those vertical timbers, and one of them is obviously right in the middle there.
My thought is that there is loads coming down on either side from the upper floor and the roof that are landing, and the rate of that load distribution is sort of disproportional, that those loads are pushing down, but there's less load in the middle. There's actually no load at all, right? So that hasn't sort of settled as much.
Correct.
And if those loads aren't transferred over the lally columns or whatever pier supports you have, it could be speaking more to that girder being undersized and sagging.
We're going to navigate over to Mark here. Mark, what do you think?
So the first question that I have is there any humidity in that basement?
Well, we just had a lot of rain in Southern California.
Okay.
And so it, and occasionally, I upgraded the downspouts into those beautiful copper rain chains, and I was a little slow to pick up that, it was so dry here. I was thinking, the flower beds will use that water. Well, that was wrong, because I actually got a river into the basement.
Yes.
So I've since diverted that water away, and that's not happening. But you can see from the, one wall where there is some planting outside the foundation that water can seep through.
Okay. So what you're talking about is a very good point. It's called water management. So simply stated, manage your water, which it sounds like you're doing. And the reason I ask about the humidity is because when I see dusty mortar on the floor, that is a breakdown of the mortar, and it's caused by humidity. So it's constant wetness. And don't forget, your foundation is a natural product. It's a stone, and it moves very, very slightly, but that movement will, again, kind of jiggle that aggregate and break down the lime that's in the mortar. And again, the end result of that is, yes, you have that dust on the floor. So we were just talking about the downspout. Is that a place where you see a lot of this masonry dust?
No, but that's where I know it came in because it came in from that direction over this 3-foot wall. The side where I can see the moisture has a couple of camellias planted right up near the foundation.
Okay. Okay.
But they're old and I don't want to move them.
I know, but I tell this to people all the time because people don't really get it. But some of those roots act as conduits for the water, and they'll actually, if those roots are growing up against that river rock, they'll actually channel the water right into the foundation without you knowing it. So if you rectified a problem with a downspout or a chain, again, just through a normal rainstorm, these roots could be acting as a conduit and bringing the moisture into you. Zach, what do you think? Do you think any of that contributes to the load problem?
It's so tough because we lack context and we can't see it.
Yes.
I think it's worth having an expert look at it. I definitely think either a structural engineer or a contractor. I will say sometimes something that looks straight isn't straight, and you can get squashing happening, which then can cause the girder might be straight, but the subfloor might be lifting up and pushing the floor with it. I see that pretty frequently in older homes, but I think it can't hurt to, at a minimum, make some benchmarks if you can around the house. So this is the problem as it sits now. And if you notice it getting worse, in a way that you can mark it, then definitely get a contractor or a structural engineer in there to get their opinion on the situation, or even a mason. But I would say the first thing is get the data for yourself that the problem is getting worse before thinking about, do I need to rip out this whole foundation?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good advice.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Carmen.
Thanks, Carmen. Good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. All right. Bye-bye.
Call us now to have your home improvement or DIY question answered. 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Or leave us a voicemail anytime. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, Jen. This is Roger Mack calling from Troy, Michigan.
Hi, Roger. What's your question today?
My question is, in the great room in our home, there's a wet bar. The back wall is like a 5-foot by 8-foot mirror. Unfortunately, the mirror developed a crack, and replacing that is difficult and very expensive, the whole mirror. I'm wondering, is there any way to repair the crack? It's a very large crack, like a 20-inch crack. Or is there any way to conceal it, to disguise it so it doesn't look so bad?
Mm-hmm. We've got Zach Detmore, a general contractor for This Old House, here on the line to help. Zach, I asked our producer if we could start having a chime we play when someone calls from Michigan. Some sort of a you win.
It's true. And
right.
I love hearing Roger's Michigan accent.
I know, it matches, right? We've got the same hard A. I like it. So what do you do if you have a crack in a mirror? Is there any way to conceal it, he wonders?
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to fix it in a way that it will disappear, because basically this is a sheet of glass, and then I believe they apply a fluid to the back of the glass, which is almost like a chrome finish, and then you're just seeing that through the clear glass. So this is now severed, this line, and I don't think there's a way of ever making that perfect. So
I really thought you were going to recommend he decoratively break the rest of it.
So, yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is a decorative film. Like a window tint, but you can get decorative films in frosted glass. You can get them with water glass. So different types that maybe would match the aesthetic of the place. But I think that's probably the most value-focused approach, because all you're doing is buying one product, and then you're spending between 30 minutes and 48 hours trying to get the creases out of the film. Ask me how I know that, because it's like, put one drop of dish soap in the fluid, and then I put like 30% dish soap in, and then the film sliding all over the place.
This really hurt you.
Yeah, I don't know why. Me and decorative film, but if you're good at following directions, which I am not, then you will have an easy time of this. The nice thing is there's so many different kinds, and if you end up hating the way it looks, you just peel the film off. So I think that's my first guess. Any kickback on that being a bad idea?
I think it's a good suggestion. The window film comes in different tints, like transparent, see-through, night darkness, night privacy, day privacy for the windows.
Yeah.
He's done his research.
Whoa. You should be selling this stuff.
Unexpected.
So which one would be a good fit?
He knows his options. Well, what about peel and stick tile? Don't a lot of people use peel and stick backsplash tile in certain applications? It seems like glass would be a perfect substrate for it.
I hadn't thought of that. I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all.
I mean, peel and stick tile has come a long way. It doesn't look like contact paper anymore. It looks like real tile.
What if you don't like that, then you just get another mirror and put it over the peel and stick tile?
How many layers could we put in this sandwich?
I've never used a peel and stick tile, but
I think a replacement mirror would be expensive. Really.
Decorative foam is definitely the cheapest, and it doesn't add any weight. If the peel and stick tile has some mass to it, we don't really know how well adhered the mirror is to the wall behind it. So that could be, a minor concern. But I think both of those would work really well.
My fear is the peel and stick tile is going to make it look like my kitchen floor.
Depends on which one you get.
Peel and stick tile does come in backsplash patterns. So you don't have to get like a floor tile. It does come in like the small scale, typical tile that you'd put on a backsplash. You just want to make sure you search wall tile.
That sounds like a good plan to conceal it nicely. Yeah.
Mm.
Roger, we appreciate the call. Thanks so much. We wish you luck.
Thank you. I really enjoy your show.
Take care.
Call us now at 877-864-7460. 877-864-7460. Or you can leave us a voicemail anytime. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hey, this is Robert Everest calling from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Hey, Robert, what's your question today?
A while ago, our city, Minneapolis here, had an incentive thing where you could buy smart thermostats. So I got a couple through this discount deal through the city and was all excited. I have an older house and I was like, I'll, increase my efficiency here and save some money. But when I had an electrician come over, a heating guy, I don't remember, he said he could connect it, and he tried to connect it, and he said, "Oh, this house isn't wired for this. It's not, And he gave me the impression that it would be prohibitively expensive to make this work, and I was just kind of heartbroken because I had bought two of them, one for one of my rental properties and one for my own home. But the rental property is also over 100 years old. So you're just like out of luck. Like what? There's so many old houses and all these smart thermostats now, and it just can't be done. So that's kind of my question. Like, how do you make this work if it's possible?
Absolutely. Well, we've got Zach Detmore, general contractor for the show, and Heath Eastman, electrician for This Old House, both here to help. Heath, is it possible?
Anything's possible, Jen. It's
Anything.
Always possible. It's just a matter of what you have to do to make it happen. How are you, Robert?
I'm great. I'm hoping to be doing even better shortly.
So I'm going to guess if you tried to put the smart thermostats in or had someone look at them, they only had two wires going to the thermostat that was existing, correct?
That sounds right, yep.
Yeah, so you have heating only, no cooling?
Correct.
Okay.
Hey, Heath, this sounds like an uncommon problem.
Just couldn't help yourself,
I
could you?
So good, right?
So you probably know what Zach is talking about there, where the contractor that came over to look at those said you did not have a wire that they could use as the common to power the thermostat.
I mean, their talk doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm not an electrician. I'm not too technically knowledgeable I'm a musician.
So you didn't like that joke is what you're telling me.
Don't feel bad, Robert. You're not the only person that didn't like the joke.
Wrong room.
What I took home from it was that it wasn't possible to do anything, and I was just like forlorn, and
Nope. So
but then I heard the show, and I was like, hey, cool.
It is possible. So the easiest thing to do is if you have access to a basement where the heating system is and the thermostat may be on the first floor, replace the wire.
Yep.
That's the quickest and simplest thing to do. And then you can actually pick up a common.
Just replace the wire?
Yeah. So if you have a 2-wire going to that thermostat, you can replace it with a 3-wire so that you can get constant power. You need the 24 volts and the common, and then being able to switch the heating on and off. So you need that third conductor.
Okay, so this is like a wire made of 3 parts? It's like one single wire and there's 3 components?
So if you saw the thermostat wire, that connects to the thermostat, instead of having you probably have a red and a white in there.
Yep.
It would have a red and white and a green, or red and white and some other colors in addition to it. You need another conductor.
Okay. So I just have to get an electrician or a heating guy to like replace that whole wire down to the furnace in the basement.
Correct. And if it's the first floor and it's down to the basement, it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. I say that without seeing it. You never know. I don't want to tell someone this.
Is this an old steam or hot water boiler?
No, it is radiators. Yes.
Okay. And so I have this problem in my house. I bought a thermostat. I have a 2-wire system, and I still haven't fixed the issue, but I haven't because I have to add a transformer to get the 24 volts. And we have this issue quite a bit. And I think the expense comes in sort of the collaboration, because sometimes you need an electrician to add the transformer, and you maybe need an HVAC technician to connect it if the electrician doesn't want to or isn't capable of doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point. But typically, most of the time when they're installing that transformer, if they're doing that and tying it to the system, they are able to do that and make that connection for you. So yeah, you need to have constant 24 volt power.
He's disappointed you've met someone that won't do it.
Yeah,
I kind of am. I'm like, how do you?
He's like, no. You should know how to do that.
It had to be a heating guy. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No offense to the HVAC people. Just joking.
Here's the $1 million question, though. So over time, like how many years is it going to take to recoup the cost and efficiency to recoup the cost of like all of this work being done? Because it sounds like it's probably over $1,000 at this point.
That I couldn't.
I just charged someone to do this, and it was $492 plus the thermostat. So based off that logic, I think it depends on how much energy costs. If you're in Martha's Vineyard, we're talking 2 weeks, you'll get this money back. But probably, depending on what it is in your area, I think we're talking years.
It depends the construction type of the house, how well insulated, how much you're varying the temperature, that kind of thing.
And I think it's ambitious to think that the rental property will be affected at all if you're providing that energy. If you're not, then maybe.
Well, the other benefit to it is, if they are smart thermostats, you should have an app where you can actually see where they're set and what the settings are. That gives you the ability to have some remote control and some information as well as what's going on, especially at the rental property.
Exactly. That was the thing, because at this rental property in particular, so one of my tenants at one point had the temperature, the thermostat at 84 and the windows open.
And the windows open.
Winter, and that's Minneapolis.
How many times have you seen that?
That's what I was talking about. Yeah. I put a box over it one to keep them from messing with it, and they put a bag of ice on top of the box. Can you believe that?
I can, actually.
What kind of renters?
That's such a good idea, actually.
There's a hack. I just ruined every landlord's life in the country. Like, we're just going to put a bag of ice on the thermostat.
So many people are so angry at you right now. Yeah, it's definitely the best option for that is replacing the wire. If it's first floor to basement, it's probably worth the investment. It's going to take a few years, like Zach said, to get back to it, but the control will be worth it.
And then but I got to get the transformer.
Depending on the system, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Awesome.
But any qualified electrician should be able to handle that for you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for your help.
All right, thanks.
If you have a question for us, leave us a voicemail on our hotline, 877-864-7460, and we can answer your question next time. Coming up, CNN lead Washington anchor Jake Tapper shows us his old house.
When you go like on a vacation and you see the sky at night and you can't even believe that you don't get to see that every night. At the lake house, it's like that. You get to see all the stars.
That's next on This Old House Radio Hour. This Old House Radio Hour is supported by Fast Growing Trees. Finding the right plants for your specific climate shouldn't be a guessing game. Fast Growing Trees is America's largest online nursery with over 1,600 varieties curated by experts to thrive in your yard. Whether you need privacy trees, fruit trees, or flowering shrubs, they deliver the best quality plants directly to your door. Skip the messy car and the weekend crowds. Just click, order, and grow. Right now, stock up for spring with the plants and trees you need. Select varieties are up to half off. And listeners to our show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code THISOLDHOUSE at checkout. That's an additional 20% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code THISOLDHOUSE. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code THISOLDHOUSE. Now is the perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Use This Old House to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Welcome back to This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jenn Nawada. Coming up, we tell you how to plant a biodiverse yard, whether you live in a big city or the countryside. But first, we go to Lake Anna in rural Virginia, where CNN anchor Jake Tapper goes when he needs to escape from Washington, D.C., a quiet lake house where the phones go silent and the stars come out, then the news cycle fades away.
Hi, this is Jake Tapper, CNN anchor, and this is my old house. We get in the car, and it is me, my wife, our daughter, Alice, our son, Jack, and our 3 dogs, Moose, Bear, and Clementine. We're driving southwest of DC, and then we pull in about 2 hours into this cul-de-sac. We had this nice house on the water of a big lake. It's a big A-frame. We were looking for a refuge, a place we could go and be outdoors and be away from the troubles of the world, but also the act itself of leaving DC. We bought it during COVID, and we were going through a presidential election at the same time. So there was a lot of madness. And one of the things about my job, the ability that most people have to go on vacation and tune out the news, I'm not able to do that. I'm not asking for pity about it. As Hyman Roth in The Godfather says, this is the business we've chosen. So getting out for a weekend is helpful. It's just so quiet, very peaceful. The dogs are always so happy to be there. It's just completely a refuge from day-to-day life in Washington, D.C. There's no alarm clocks in the bedrooms, and other than the phones we bring, there are no phones. But when we first got the place, there was really almost no internet, and that was a blessing too. The decision was made to have the living room be 2 stories, so it's one big living room kitchen with a huge ceiling that looks out onto forests and a lake. My wife decorated most of it, so it's very modern. She let me decorate the den with a bar and a pool table. I bought these giant movie posters, All the President's Men, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Cool Hand Luke. They're all Italian posters, and they're all authentic, original from the 60s and 70s, and ridiculously large. The second floor of the house has 2 giant bedrooms with 4 beds in each one. When we bought the house, the intention was that the kids would come and bring their friends. A lot of people can stay there. When we started having my college reunions there, me and my 9 best friends who lived together in college, they come from all over the world. All of them can come. We went to Dartmouth and we played a lot of beer pong. I bought a ping pong table. That's now in the garage. There's no room for any cars now in the garage. It's just a ping pong table so that we can have pong tournaments when they come every year. I'm the worst player out of all of them, but it's still fun. You know, when you go like on a vacation and you see the sky at night and you can't even believe that you don't get to see that every night? And that's what it's like. At the lake house, it's like that. You get to see all the stars. I'm always saying to my wife that I want to build some hammocks in the front yard so we could just lie there. But she always correctly points out that the mosquitoes would devour us because it is a lake. There's a lot of wildlife, quite a thriving insect world. The sounds are lots of crickets, just a symphony of crickets for miles and miles and miles. You might hear a speedboat or a jet ski. I bought a record player, so I have a bunch of LPs. There might be Steely Dan or Joe Jackson or Elvis Costello or Michael Jackson playing. But other than that, it's pretty quiet. I could stay there forever. It's a place to escape the realities of the world. It's a place to discuss the kids or the dogs or a book you're reading or spending time with friends and family and slowing down and cooking your own food instead of ordering it, talking or laughing or playing games as opposed to just watching TV, having a restaurant where the owner knows your name, and it's very country in the best possible way. Life slows down. I just hope this is a house that gets handed down from generation to generation. It is such a refuge, and it is such a pleasure to be there. Talking about it makes me want to go there right now, but unfortunately I have to work. I don't know if you've ever been to Cape Town, South Africa, but there's this giant mountain in the middle of Cape Town called Table Mountain. And sometimes there's a fog on top of it that looks like a tablecloth. I always think if I lived in a town or a city where there was such a beautiful natural monument that would remind me of the ephemerality of life and what really is important, love and family and health. And the view of the lake is the closest thing I have to Table Mountain in my life.
That was Jake Tapper. His latest book, Original Sin, is out now from Penguin Press, wherever books are sold. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour. The best landscapes begin with a plan, knowing your space, choosing the right plants for your region, and really thinking ahead about how everything's going to grow together. A growing trend is creating a garden or landscape that not only looks good, but also contributes to the local ecosystem that supports the birds, bees, and other wildlife in your neighborhood. This Old House landscape contractor Jenn Nawada calls it building biodiversity into your backyard. So Jenn, when should you start planning your garden and your landscape?
I would say now. Start to do your research on native plants in your area. Go to the USDA hardiness zone, figure out what zone you're in, or you go to your local extension school. They have a lot of great ideas. Take your measurements, start to put it on paper. Say, okay, I have 20 feet by 5 feet. This is the area I'm going to tackle this year. And then figure out, okay, then how big do each of these shrubs grow? How big is this tree going to get? I don't want it too close to the house, stuff like that.
So what I hear you saying is we're right on schedule.
Absolutely.
So what is biodiversity in a landscape?
So biodiversity in landscape, it refers to all the living organisms in the landscape, anything from plants and animals and microorganisms. So it's how everything interacts together and how they travel between different landscapes. Like, so think of like, how does a fox move from one habitat to another to get their food? It's all the ecological functions, how they travel through fields and forests and wetlands, and even to cities and places that are not their habitat, but that have become their habitat. So biodiversity is all those things put together.
So I'm thinking, my brain goes to something like bees or butterflies and the way they use certain plants in your yard, but maybe that's not their home. They travel out to get their pollen and then bring it back to where they are making the honey.
Yeah. Bringing it back to their hives. Yes. So having biodiversity in an ecosystem, it creates resilience. So the more diverse a landscape is, the stronger it's going to become.
So thinking of trying to create biodiversity, say in my landscape at home, what are the features that you need to plan and plant?
Okay, think of walking in the woods or walking by a river or being in some kind of natural space, and then look at all the surroundings. I'm going to go through some layers here, right? So you have canopy, the understory, trees or shrubs, or tall shrubs. And beneath that, as a third layer, you have a shrub layer. So shrubs that get like 5 to 8 feet tall. They could be flowering and they produce berries. Different bloom times throughout the year to have a succession of blooms from spring, summer, fall. So it feeds different pollinators during different times or different animals.
I wouldn't have thought of that, making sure that the plants that you're choosing don't just all bloom at the same time and then you're done.
You're like, I'm only feeding you guys in June. That's all
just
you
this
get.
1 month. That's all you get.
Right. Well, have you ever had honey in the spring versus honey in the fall?
No.
Because they're different plants that they feed on during those 2 different times a year, and you get a completely different tasting honey. Like sometimes I have found around here, like the honey is a little bit spicier in the fall.
Really?
So different plants give different things.
Interesting.
Right? So recapping, we have canopy, tall, understory, 15 to 25 feet, shrub layer, 5 to 8 feet, and then go herbaceous layer, the perennials, grasses, ferns, 1 to 2 feet. And then you go to the ground layer, mosses, ground covers. And then next is the soil layer, which is like, not just the soil, it's mulch. And then a great thing to use is leaf mulch, just something organic. Don't put rubber mulch or something in that's going to not be organic. Just always think of organic things to use. And you might want to add a little bird feeder in there or a little house for the bees to hide out and pollinate it. I mean, bring their pollen home too.
I love the idea of thinking this in different layers, because I think when people think of their landscape, especially when I think of mine, I just think of it as one space that needs to get filled. I don't think of the height as much. And I think that's so important for not only making it look dynamic, but making it function in a dynamic way. I sort of think of inside lighting, how people, are so careful to layer ceiling lights with standing lamps, with bedside table lamps, and it creates a much different feel, a more natural feel when you have.
See, I would have never even thought of the layering of lights. So this is good for me.
You and I, we complement each other in that I can't think of these things outside, but my brain thinks of them as related to home design. And so I need to take that same thought process and apply it to the landscape, it sounds like.
And I need to do the same in my house.
We'll just trade houses for a weekend.
that sounds great. Yeah, because like you said, the depth, and it makes it just feel whole, right? It's like a space that wants to hug you.
Yes, absolutely. So if I want to make my outside feel like this, where do I even start?
I would start with researching native plants to your area. What is indigenous to the area? What does the wildlife want to feed off of, hide, and recreate, all of that. So that's really the backbone of diversity is native plants.
And what is the benefit of choosing plants that specifically belong where I live?
It's going to require less water.
Okay.
Disease resistant, pest resistant. You're going to need less fertilizer because they don't need it to be in a space that they're not supposed to be in. Right?
I'm not trying to keep a palm tree in Ohio, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so I'm choosing some native plants, and then how do I figure out where everything goes?
That's another great question. I mean, you have to, of course, look at the sunlight and where it's situated on your property, and think, like I talked about canopy, think of how a future canopy is going to shade beneath. Also, when you're planting, plant in clusters. Pollinators like to be able to find where they're going. So if you spot one here, one here, one here, it's easier for them to have a landing pad and in groups.
Okay. Choosing plants that don't all bloom at the same time. Things that are some will look good in spring, some will look good in fall. Are you trying to mix those into each cluster, or are you keeping them separate?
No, absolutely. That way you have a continuous cycle throughout the year. So in the spring, it lights up with azaleas, or it lights up with whatever is blooming in the spring. and then you need to transition plants. They're all going to overlap each other. There's certain flowers that take you into one season to the next. So spring, summer, fall, all the way, ending with berries on shrubs in the fall. So it gives just the longevity of food to all these creatures.
Thinking of the longevity of those creatures, are there pesticides that I should be avoiding?
I mean, when in doubt, don't use a pesticide unless you absolutely have to, right? Because it's just, people think, oh God, I just want this problem to go away. Let's just put this down. They over-fertilize, they put too much pesticide down, and then they end up killing the whole system. And then you have to essentially start over. So I guess my recommendation would be old school hand pulling. Everybody hates the idea of weeding, but that's actually what made me fall in love with landscaping.
Really?
It was like a weird, I'm like, wow, I just cleaned this entire area. It was so gratifying. And I'm sure everyone's like, oh my gosh, what's this girl all about? But, you're going to ensure you're not putting chemicals into the ground as well, because once those go into the soil, it also stays in the soil.
I think weeding and maintaining landscaping is a lost art form, because my mom, that's like her zen. If she could go out and create new borders around everything and weed, it's like picking up a book to read to her. She finds it very enjoyable.
It's really therapeutic. And if for the whole mental health part of this, it's just really, it makes you stop and think about things. And you look at what you're pulling out. And I don't know, everyone should get their hands in the soil without pesticides.
So when I'm getting started, is this, I'm doing an overhaul? Am I starting small? What's the right way to approach this?
You definitely could start small in a section. You could do anything from designing a whole plan and take a piece each year or each season. Start with one tree. Don't make it too overwhelming because that you don't want to do it again. And you could always build off of that. We're dealing with living things. It's not Amazon Prime. It's not going to show up all shiny and perfect. Plants really take a little while to get established. They say the whole first year they sleep, second year they creep, and then third year they leap, right?
I like that.
So, right? They're like gardens, all of a sudden you're like year 2 into 3, they start to explode and they become what, say, I intended it to look like in a design. Gardening teaches you patience, so just be patient and it will be beautiful.
Absolutely. This has been amazing information. We thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's been fun.
To find native plants in your area, you can visit your local extension school. And if you're looking for inspiration on how to transform your landscaping, visit thisoldhouse.com. And now it's time for one last thing, my favorite tool.
Hey, Jen, it's Ross Trethewey, the building engineer from the show This Old House. And my favorite tool is a smoke pen. Yeah, we're not talking about a vape pen, we're talking about a smoke pen. And this is great for visualizing air leaks in a house. It kind of looks like a flashlight. And when you press the button, it puts out a theatrical fog. So it's nothing harmful about it. It's usually like a propylene glycol mixture, and it puts out this fog, much like they do in theaters, to present that look of smoke. And so in many cases, we have air leaks around windows, around wall cavities. Sometimes we have, air leakage coming in through a basement foundation wall. So it's a great visual indicator to find these leaks in a house.
We'll see you next week on This Old House Radio Hour. Our show is distributed by and co-produced by LAist Studios and APM, American Public Media. This Old House Radio Hour was created and produced by Ember 20. Listen to new episodes of the podcast every Tuesday on your app of choice. You can follow This Old House on all the socials at This Old House, all one word. We'll see you next week.